Hey everyone, we are doing video number 2 with our expert Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Excellent, folks. So we just completed round 1, which is talking about the opportunities that are ahead of us in 2021, why we should be excited, where to look, all of that great stuff. If you want to know where to look and you haven't seen the video yet, do yourself a favor and watch it. Greg points at lots of areas where you can make some money next year. That was a lot of fun, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Well, you know what? Since we're doing A and B, we got to flip the coin over and talk about where all the pain is, because we are going Q4, in my opinion, is going to be the most painful quarter of 2020, in my opinion. I don't know if you share that, but I see that pretty clearly.
Yeah, it's setting up for that, and definitely the most important quarter in the history of the country, potentially the world.
Wow. Well, that just sent shivers down my back. So yeah, let's talk about it, because just like we talked about in the first video, record openings and grand openings and all just goodness coming. I think there's going to be record bankruptcies and record business closure this year. Is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking?
it's still getting ugly. So, wherever there's a problem, there's an opportunity. On the other side of the sun, set, there's a sunrise. And so we still have real issues in front of us. We still have, a pandemic on the rise pretty much all across the world. The question is, how bad is it going to get? Are we going to face shutdowns again, worse than we saw in March? Because the only way to get rid of something like that is you got to shut down completely. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the only way you can do that is you've got to isolate everybody for 2 or 3 weeks, apparently, right? For this thing to go away, then you need vaccine and treatments for it not to come back. So you can't shut the entire world down. Everybody in the world stay in your house for 3 weeks and then hope that this thing goes away. So that just isn't going to happen. But you're seeing, Italy, Spain, UK talk about lockdowns, quarantine, flat out, everybody's closed. So that's coming out of their mouths. We're starting to hear it in some areas in the United States again. There is no public will for that, but they're talking about it. And if it gets bad enough, then we might see restaurants closing, salons, that type of thing again, back to essential workers again. So there is talk that we're heading back in that direction. And it's, based on the cases and the hospitalizations, everything is looking like it's going to be much worse than it was in the spring when it all started. So the question is, the whole thought was, as temperatures warmed, we got into spring and summer, was the virus going to go away? And one school of thought is it did, that's as go away as it's going to get. Now it's bam, with the fall, the winter, the flu season, cold season, all that it's going to get really ugly until we get, treatments and everything. So, this could potentially be really bad if we end up having to shut down the world economy again, even for a 2 or 3 week period.
Yeah. Like you, I don't want to see us get anywhere back to what we did in March. That was so painful to watch. And again, when you do that, it feels bad in the weeks, but the ramifications and the ripples that are caused by that are months and quarters, and frankly, lifetimes have been changed because of that. And
Yeah.
just can't see that again. But when we talk about the pain, really what I see in the economy is, I don't know how else to say it. Think of the US economy as a highway, right? It's probably a 4-lane highway. Coming into the crisis January, the 4-lane highway was going as fast as it's ever gone. No accidents. Everybody was behaving. You're going 100 gazillion miles an hour, whatever it is. The virus comes, February, March, the highway stops for the most part, right? You get a couple of ambulances trickling through, right? Essential workers, all that stuff. But now as we sit here in October, it sort of feels like we have at least two lanes of the highway going at pretty good rates. The third lane is kind of coming back, but then there's that fourth lane that's just stopped dead in its tracks. Hospitality, travel, entertainment, we have at least one lane of our 4-lane highway, if we want to use that analogy, not working today. And as a consumer-based economy, that has real implications on the other lanes as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's huge. It's 25, 30% of the economy. The good news is we still had 70% functioning with food and essential services and things like that. Food, shelter, clothing, resources that you need to survive, and all the government had to do, instead of putting, trillions of dollars into the stock market, take all these businesses and fund their losses. That's all you had to do. So it makes zero sense to me when we can print an infinite amount of money. You can print it, Okay. And you can put it in the bank accounts of all these businesses to keep them open, whether they're having customers or not, just so they're surviving. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do in order to replace what happened. The problem now is we're so far down the road, so many businesses have closed that have never reopened. A lot of those people are either unemployed or entering, the workforce, aren't going to be able to reopen those businesses. They really missed the boat there with an opportunity to, you want to see a V-shaped recovery. We never would have missed a beat if the government just would have stepped in and said, wait a minute, businesses, we're going to fund your receipts, your gross revenues. We're just going to replace that with printed money. I mean, that's all they got to do, push a button, boom, your bank account goes where it normally is to keep the economy going. So, it'll be interesting to see if they try to take an approach like that moving into the fourth quarter, which I don't think they will, because they don't understand what they really need to be doing. It's not unemployment insurance. It's not any of that. Fund the businesses, replace the receipts that they're missing, the sales that they're missing, the revenues that they're missing. That's what keeps everything going and keeps it moving forward. In exchange for that, you got to keep people on staff and all that, so that you can't just, the owners don't just pocket it themselves. So there's got to be some requirements there, but that would have been a V-shaped recovery. And, had this been a short-lived thing, we could have come back a lot quicker, but it never was. You and I talked from the beginning, this is 18 to 24 months back in March before we see any kind of real recovery.
Yeah. So when we think about this 4-lane highway being kind of shut down, there's real pain there. And I think you're right. I think most of the pain, just given the decisions that have been made, are going to be at the small and medium-sized business. It's kind of like why the opportunities are going to come. The strip mall is going to have half as many tenants. Hotels, no occupancy. It's kind of the opposite of what we just went through with the opportunities, right? That's where most of the pain is.
Yeah, yeah. And, hotels are starting to come back. I mean, the people that I've talked to in the business, they were at 10, 20% occupancies. They've been running in the 50s in general in a lot of the business districts like a DC, New York, places like that, some areas. All the resort places were doing extremely well, but now we're coming into the off season. So, they're gonna be doing their normal off season thing. It's going to be real interesting to see what the fourth quarter is going to look like and where the Fed and Treasury are going to step in to fill the gap.
Yeah, well, I think again, based on the decisions, they made a choice to affect asset prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stock market and real estate, for that matter. They didn't in meaningfully go after the small and medium sized business or services, and there's no talk of it now, right?
Now, they had a little bit of a loan thing with SBA and things like that. The problem is most small business owners couldn't qualify,
Exactly.
So you had to have good credit. You had to have, all the things that you need to qualify for a bank loan, assets, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of businesses that were good businesses, but they had no assets. They had no reserves. They had no credit, so they weren't able to borrow the money. So that's where they messed up. It shouldn't have been a loan. It should have been a grant. You keep your employees on staff, you keep your business going, you pay your bills, you pay your landlords. Boom, we just replenish your account every month until this thing's over, and the government can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we think about the big pain in Q4, it makes me very nervous. Again, I think we're going to have record bankruptcies, record business closures. Again, small and medium sized business, which again, SMB it's about 50% of our economy, or at least it was. And a lot of them are going to give up, right? They got through the summer. Maybe if they're in retail, maybe they'll get through the holidays and be like, I'm out. I'm done. It's just
if there's another shutdown, that'll be the last straw for a lot of people, because this is the holidays. This is when everybody's supposed to do all their business. So if you get locked down at this point going into the holidays, there's a lot of brick and mortars that are just gone.
Yeah, and then we talk about again. I think there's the other pain that's going to be unique in this environment. I'm pretty convinced is Class A of all things, urban. We're seeing those Class A tenants pretty clearly in some big cities exit, go to the suburbs. We're seeing some millennials, maybe it's Class B tenants, move back home. There's record, kids back with parents. It's at a record level. So I think multifamily apartments are going to suffer more pain than houses. I think houses actually come out of this relatively unscathed.
Yeah, single family is going to do well. I mean, there's no inventory right now. There's more buyers than there are homes. As long as interest rates stay low, there's institutional investors that are buying homes to rent. And there's a lot of investors looking for homes to rent. So I think single family is going to be fine. the cities, certain cities are, they're in trouble. I mean, the offices, retail, well, it's not just multifamily. I mean, it's retail, it's hotels, it's offices. I mean, monumental hotels are closing in New York. And, there's enough of an exodus in New York now and an economic downturn where it's starting to make national news in terms of, how bad of shape New York City is. I mean, big hedge fund, the largest hedge fund there, I think, is leaving. There was an article the other day moving to Florida
Mhm.
for all kinds of different reasons. So um, it's going to be very interesting times. I mean, New York is a great city and it always comes back, but in the short term, there's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of inventory to fill, and as prices drop, we get control of things. People will start coming back again, and it'll come back. But yeah, it's there's going to be some interim pain there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, folks, remember every opportunity, there's some pain. We're going to suffer some pain first. Do you see the pain kind of lasting through Q1 of next year? Kind of when do you see max pain, right? Because I think there'll be lingering pain throughout, but do you see max pain Q4, Q1? Any guess?
Depends on how serious this situation really is, with
Okay.
the pandemic and what really happens. It just depends on how it plays out. It depends on what the political climate looks like going into next year, what the tax environment looks like, those types of things. There's a lot of potentials for things to go either way, but I think the big caveat is how serious is this coronavirus this fall and winter? How bad is it going to get, and are we going to have to shut down again? And if we have to shut down again, it's going to be a problem for Q1, 2021.
There you go. We will leave that there. Again, folks, 2-part series. Where are the opportunities? Where's the pain? Thank you very much, Greg. A lot of fun.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks.